was focusing on taking care of them, being a good steward to the bees. And working with my friends that were there, it just shifted my perspective of life. And I truly believe these bees saved my life. And now we get to continue to steward those. And others have similar experiences that they've shared through our conversations. And it's a privilege to be able to speak about that on a continuous level for our organization. But trust me, there are literally thousands of people, just like me, whether they were first responders or veterans, that have very, very similar stories that shifted their life. So maybe some listeners might feel the same way and take that leap into the fear, overcome that fear with our buddies, doing it again, all over again, serving a bigger cause.
My name is Thad David. I'm a former Marine Recon Scout Sniper with 2 deployments to Iraq. As a civilian, I've now facilitated hundreds of personal and professional development trainings across the country. And it struck me recently that the same things that help civilians will also help veterans succeed in their new roles as well. Join me as we define civilian success principles to inspire veteran victories. Welcome to another episode. I'm here today with Steve Jimenez from Hives for Heroes. How are you doing, Steve?
Doing wonderful. Thanks for having us, Thad. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Man, I'm so excited. I first heard about you guys from, I was facilitating a training and somebody told me about all the great work that you were doing with Hives for Heroes and immediately just became super interested with everything you're doing. I'm excited to hear about it, what got you into it, and just everything along the way, man. It's just amazing stuff that you have going on. So I'm excited to share it out.
Thank you. There's so many people around the country doing this that it's pretty humbling to know how many people are putting efforts into this to serve, our community of veterans and first responders.
It's absolutely amazing. It's great work that you're doing, and I'm just pumped to share it out there. And just really quick too, I know you're a fellow Marine. If you could just so everybody can hear about kind of what got you started. When did you join the Marine Corps? What did you do in the Marines? What got you to join? Just a little bit of that backstory. A
little bit of background. So I joined the years 06, graduated there 06. So then went in OEF vet. So was on 15th MU from basically all of 2010. Got out in 11 and then went reserves with Fourth Recon, which we had those conversations about all the fun stuff there. I got in really. 9/11 was a huge turning point for me, and that was a part of my life where a lot of my friends ended up going to the Marine Corps from my high school, and my parents did not allow me to go and enlist. They were like, "You are not going to enlist." So I'm one of those that went to A&M, graduated from A&M through the Corps Cadets, which is a wonderful experience, and then went the OCC route, so 10 weeks there, and then of course TBS and everything else that goes along with it. And then I was a commo, so comm school. Comm school is another 6 months, as you know. So it took a while to get to the fleet, but when I did, I really enjoyed it, and I'm grateful that the MU was where I was able to go because we were in a lot of countries doing a lot of things, very kinetic, but also extremely helpful throughout the globe, right? As the MU is, and got to experience all the MAGTAF, as we talk about. Marines know that, but a lot of people don't. Marine Air Ground Task Force and how it really integrates throughout the world. And got out and went back in. I missed it too much, and I had to go back in 6 months later into the reserve.
Oh, so you got out and then got back in?
Yeah, I missed it too much. I love my Marines, man. Every time we go and do something, we're together, and that was an amazing experience for me to be with like-minded, Type A, very motivated, purpose and mission-driven people that we could do that together and make a difference in the world. And we're doing it again here. It's just a different platform. Now we're working with honeybees throughout the United States, and we have a lot of mission-driven, purpose-driven people that are taking a lot of time to serve others. And it's very, very much a similar experience, except for nobody's getting shot at.
Right. Well, and that's always makes it a much better way to show up to work every day. And man, I love how you made that connection too. That I talked to somebody recently named Evan, and just another actually former Marine that runs his own company, and it was really cool to watch him unpack and discover that what he missed about the Marine Corps was the service side of it, and just being able to serve others. And it was just adjusting his thinking to how he's serving people in his community, serving people by hiring veterans, and it was really cool to see that shift. That the service doesn't have to stop just because you got out.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. We talk about our core values all the time as an organization, because our mission is connecting veterans and first responders to beekeeping throughout the United States. and we provide access, resources, and funding for those individuals that are interested. And we do that in a multitude of ways through scholarships and kind of grants and education through the major institutions and universities throughout the United States. But connecting that to our core values is connection, right? Connecting back to ourselves, because sometimes we forget that. Connecting to nature and connecting back to each other, building healthy relationships, healthy, accountable relationships, finding purpose bigger than yourself, and then serving others well. So connection, purpose, relationships, and service. We call it our CPRs.
That's beautiful. I love that. That's incredible. And you pass that along to anybody that takes a hive. I know we're kind of stepping into what you're currently doing, but is that stuff that
Absolutely.
you pass along? Anybody that takes on a hive is living by those principles as well?
That's correct. Yeah, we do everything through those core values. Again, providing access, resources, and funding for those individuals and some of their families that are willing and wanting to go do things like this. And then we do all that legally, morally, and ethically correct. So those are our tenets. Those are our foundations throughout the organization, which translates throughout the United States. As we're about 3,700 right now through all 50 states.
Wow. And before we even unpack, because I'm so excited to hear about all the different, just amazing things that this does for veterans in general, and I'm curious to know what got you into it, because you don't. It's
Oh
rare to
man.
talk to somebody that does anything with bees. And I had this Uncle Joe, and I think he was like a third or fourth uncle removed, from down South Mississippi, and so
Okay.
we had to drive up a ways, and he actually took care of bees, and I might have seen him 3 times when I was a kid,
Okay.
ever, but I always remember
Doing
showing up
that.
and just yeah, it was a really unique, interesting thing. But for my entire life, that's the only person I've ever known that's done anything with bees. So I'm very curious to know, like, what sparked this? Was it your transition out? How was your transition out of the military? Like, what sparked this with bees?
Yeah, the transition was pretty rough as I got out in 13, 14. Um, pretty devastating. I was able to do very well in corporate America for a good amount of time, and then it just didn't really work for me. So I ended up starting my own company and doing well in consulting. I think we talked a little bit about Lean and Six Sigma as my background. So
Yep.
operation consulting, efficiency and effectiveness, et cetera, working with people well. So that was my background after getting out of the Marines, working for Fortune 50 companies and really enjoying that part, but I was kind of dying inside. And I didn't realize that. I was putting all my energy in towards my corporate career and really kind of ignoring my family and myself. And so that transition through heavy drinking, right? A lot of people have stories with addiction and things of that nature. I'm one of them. Heavy alcohol use. Not very kind to myself, not very kind to a lot of people around me. And I ended up starting my own company knowing that we could perform well. And I thought that was going to be the next avenue. Um, and then we were pretty successful and I got depressed again. So there was this overarching not having enough of me, right? Not
Okay.
seeing myself, but always serving others, but in an unhealthy way, serving it in a way that was driving a force to be better instead of being just good. And so now, as that has shifted, I spent about 3 years extremely depressed. Did not have a great experience with our system that we probably all understand on the VA side. I personally did not have a great experience, and I had to go out to the outside sectors with nonprofits and things of that nature in order to support me coming back. And
Okay.
and that really was an inspiration to me in a sense of serving others. So I volunteered a lot with other organizations, really, so I could get outside of myself. And then I had a friend invite me to a beekeeping experience, which if you ever, seen a, Marine with PTS coming back and like getting into a hive, not knowing what's going on, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, to be honest.
Yeah.
We joke around. There's like literally thousands of ladies trying to kill you every second, right? If you're not doing things correct. So why would you ever do that? But something happened when we opened up that hive. I had the camaraderie with my friends there that we were trusting. We use the adage, trust yourself, your gear, and your buddies, just like we did, in the military. And so I enjoyed the experience. These bees came out and it made it into a cathartic experience. So instead of that anxiety that I had previously, it actually calmed me down tremendously. And I was able to focus for one of the few times that I can remember on something. I was focusing on taking care of them, being a good steward to the bees, and working with my friends that were there. it just shifted my perspective of life. And I truly believe these bees saved my life. And now we get to continue to steward those. And others have similar experiences that they've shared through our conversations. And it's a privilege to be able to speak about that on a continuous level for our organization. But trust me, there are literally thousands of people, just like me, whether they were first responders or veterans, that have very, very similar stories that shifted their life. So maybe some listeners might feel the same way and take that leap into the fear, overcome that fear with our buddies, doing it again, all over again, serving a bigger cause.
Yeah, I love this story, and it really summarized it really, really well. And oftentimes, I want to circle back to one of the first things that you said about that transition out, just because I think that a lot of veterans get out and they might be struggling, but they don't realize how bad they're struggling yet. And it's kind of like
Yeah, really.
it's tough to know what to do when you don't realize exactly what's going on, or that there is something that happened. And so it sounded like you got out, and you said you were working for a Fortune 50 company.
Yes.
I mean, just
Two
so
of them back to
financially,
back.
you're doing
Well,
yeah, extremely well. I mean, life
yeah,
from the outside looking in, anybody that would look at this would say, "Whoop, he's locked and loaded. He's ready to go."
perfect life.
But
3 kids,
yeah,
married, career, house, blah blah blah, everything.
yeah,
American dream.
what else could you want?
Right.
And there was struggle inside of it.
Inside, and
Okay.
never were able to deal with those things because I was always focusing on quote unquote success. Right. So
Mm.
success in business, having that outside perspective, having other people go, oh, you know what, that's pretty cool. And whether the struggle was external or not, I think we all deal with struggles that are our own, right? There's trauma associated all throughout our lives, and we deal with those in different ways. My personal way was to throw myself into work. I'm sure there's people on here that have
Oh yeah.
experienced that, right? I threw myself into work. That was going to make me happy. And then when I wasn't happy, in order to disconnect from that, I was drinking. So now I have this kind of excellent work life with a drinking balance and almost like hiding those things from each other. And really, at the end of the day, I wasn't being honest with myself. And going through the experiences that we have, I attribute it to not just the bees, but the bees doing the work that we don't see. There's a lot of science out there now that shares how it is actually very advantageous for you to work with bees in order to cope with PTSD. So that's a huge thing that universities are coming out with. Studies are coming out. You see things on Instagram and other social media networks that are bringing these facts out, and and now it's like, oh wow, I didn't know that factually or scientifically. I just felt that for me, and again, I know other people have as well. And I love sharing stories of others that have given us permission because there are so many amazing veterans and first responders in this organization that have gone from, whether it's addiction or jail or all sorts of stuff. And now they've started their own companies. They're serving their community in amazing ways. And we're just their backstop. We're not telling them what to do. We're saying, here we are as a resource for support. We're here to serve you. And in that, you're serving yourself, you're serving your family, and you're serving your community in such amazing ways.
That's so incredible. What an amazing, amazing story. And hearing like what you said there, it sounded like, because what a great place to hide. I think that a lot of people hide in that I'm working really hard. Look at
Mm-hmm.
how successful I am. And we can like, because nobody's got to run in and say, wow, you're working so hard. Shame on you.
Yep,
And it's a wonderful hiding space because you're validated from everybody around you, even though the world might be falling apart inside. Everybody backs you up and validates what you're doing. And so it sounds like you were defining success in a very different way than
that's
you
right.
do now.
Oh, very
And
much so. Yeah, very much so. Our success is now driven through the success of others and how
mm,
well that they can come through. I mean, if you hear the stories that are, I mean, you can look on our Instagram and there's a lot of testimonials on there and things of that nature. But when you really sit knee to knee with somebody around a beehive and you're learning something completely different, the conversations are incredible. I mean, people open up that it's like having that campfire, right? It's just a
yep,
little bit more dangerous, right? That the fireside chat that we like going to our retreats and things of that nature, and just the real healing is done around the campfire, right?
yeah.
This is the real healing is done around the hive.
All right. So anybody that might be in that position, I would say that was a great transition over, because if you're defining success for self, like what kind of nice things do I have? Do I get the validation from others? It might be good to look at transitioning to success for others, and what are we doing to help support other people, and getting into the beehive. when you were talking about it earlier and how just meditative almost that
Mhm.
it could
Yeah,
be,
absolutely.
it made me think of like an EOD bomb squad going in. That was the visual that you gave me when you were talking about
Nice.
earlier, like going into it, and and I don't know if that's accurate at all. I've never done this,
I'm not
but
an EOD
that's
guy, but guess
yeah,
what? One of
yeah.
the guy that does everything for our merchandise and all our engraving, EOD Marine. So
uh,
we get to hear some stories. He's an amazing guy. Kevin's incredible. Serves in a great capacity for us because we don't have to worry about things. But I can see that on the EOD side, right? Like nothing else matters right now,
yeah.
and I'm taking care of everything around here, but I have to focus on this in order to take care of it. I can see that. That's a really cool analogy.
Well, and I mean, it was the visual that you gave me. That's just where my mind went. I'm like, it's almost like a bomb squad going in because you can't focus on anything else, or bad things are going to happen to yourself and other people.
Yeah, and
And
something that's truly like fascinated me was if I'm agitated, they feel it, right? It's not like I'm
interesting.
going in and like kicking or moving a whole bunch of stuff, but these adages that we utilize, right? Slow, smooth, smooth is fast. That's what we do in a hive. And
Mm,
if you're not like focused on them, it's almost like they know it. But if you're agitated for some reason, they will become agitated. It's like they feel the energy that you're working through, and it's really cool because it forces you to be calm. It's not a therapy session, but wow, at the end of it, you kind of feel like it.
uh,
And so there's a lot of people. We hear stories all the time that people just literally like going out sipping coffee. They have a hive in their backyard, like one hive, two hives, whatever. They don't have to be commercial beekeepers by any means, but those one or two hives, they'll just sit in their backyard drinking coffee and it calms them. That's their therapy. It's pretty amazing.
mm. So what is it? And I'm going to ask you because I don't know. It sounds like there's an aspect of it where we're going in and we're taking care of this hive, which I would love to hear unpack what that process looks like. But then also, it seems like there's another aspect of it just sitting on your back porch drinking a cup of coffee, which that sounds pretty incredible. Just doing that. What's it like? What does that look like jumping in and going in and taking care of a hive? I mean, you've
Yeah,
mentioned trust in yourself, trust in your gear, trust in everybody around you. I mean, what does it look like to go in to take care of a hive? What's it?
yeah. We still love that adage so much. Trust yourself, your gear, and your buddies. Walking into an unknown situation, follow a process, a known process.
Mm,
Find success and build confidence. So that's kind of this circular piece. Trust yourself, your gear, your buddies. Go into an unknown, follow a process, find success, build confidence. And you just repeat this and repeat this and repeat this over and over again. And it has become one of those things where now, because these processes they're not standardized by any means. If I'm going to inspect a hive, you're going to inspect the hive probably differently at one level or another. But we have an understanding of each other, right? There's the safety factor. There's looking out for each other. There is, jumping out of a bird, for example. Everybody's looking at their gear, right? Gear checks, buddy checks. All that stuff happens prior to going into the hive, and you're watching each other's back the entire time. So the "I got your six" stuff is right there present, right? And then you're building that confidence afterwards, and you did it together. So there's your shared hardship. I mean, we can put these metaphors of everything that we've done in the military almost right next to each other and have that same have a better transition story. And when we started this, it was actually only a handful of people here in Houston, Texas, and we started by doing rescues and removals. And we did that because we had no idea what we were doing. Because if you're a beekeeper and you're listening, you already know that's like the worst thing that you can do. But of course, leave it to a bunch of Marines and Army guys to go out and do the worst thing you could possibly do, just to disconnect and go do something for somebody else, right? Um,
yeah.
like,
Yep.
yes, let's not have any clue. This is our first year of beekeeping, right? And we're like cutting out walls and like taking these bees and trying to, put them into a safe environment. Not being successful a lot of the times. And the reason why our peer-to-peer mentorship platform is so important is because you can have all the education you want. I mean, think about sitting in a course on, you mentioned EOD or shooting, right? Like you sit in the course for your PowerPoint presentation. Does that mean you can shoot? No, it means
Mm-mm.
like the pieces of the weapon,
Yep.
right? But like actually getting out there, totally different ballgame. So our peer-to-peer is based on, we love the education side. There are universities, there are programs and organizations that are out there that are there to serve on the education side. We're more on the people side. And we do that by, again, knee to knee, person to person. But man, isn't it a different experience when you have a PMI instructing you in the front? It's very different than it is having a PMI right next to you, showing you how to shoot, right? Remember those PMIs where you're like, how do you know what I'm doing wrong? Just by where
Yep.
it's hitting on the paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's crazy. Well, it's because they've been there and they've done that. And
Yeah.
now they can instruct you in a way that is so easy for you to understand. It's like, oh, trigger squeeze, breath, whatever that is. And you're like, okay, so now we got it. Well, we do the same thing here. It's, left to right, mentorship. We're connecting people with somebody in their local area as best as we possibly can. Of course, it's a large geographic area, and we try to put people within 30 miles of each other. And so far, that has been a very, very large success. One of the other statistics that is important to understand is 80% of first-year beekeepers quit. 70% of the 20% that go into their second year quit. Not a very high success rate for beekeepers,
No.
right?
Why did they quit?
Because it's hard and they're trying to do it alone. I don't know
And
what
so
I'm
you,
doing, and I go into a bunch of bees and I spend all this money, and then they either die or they fly off, right? They abscond. I'm out, and I don't know
yeah,
what I did wrong. So we actually we encourage our beekeepers not to get bees their first year. Get with a mentor, hook up with
mm,
us, heroes.com, get with a mentor, go into their yard, learn a lot in a very, very short period of time. And then in the second year, those mentors end up gifting you a hive so that you are now rewarded for your efforts in their yard. So there's a reward component there as well.
that's beautiful. Well, what a great thing to do too. I mean, it's almost like what it makes me think of. I was just talking to somebody yesterday that people don't really value. We don't assign a lot of value to free things,
Mm-hmm.
but
That's
we
right.
assign a ton of value to things that we have to work for.
That's right. That's
And
a
when
spot on.
yeah, well, it's just I mean that you guys already figured it out and you have that rolling. So that's absolutely incredible. So you find somebody within 30 miles that is doing it.
That is our
You get
goal.
them
Our
you
goal is
get them
30
paired
miles.
up,
Mhm.
and so then you go and learn the aspects of it, and then after that you gifted your own hive.
That's right, and you have all the courses and things that you need that are necessary in order to be successful as well. We run everything again on a reward program. So what we ask is you put your money up for your education. It could be anywhere between 100 or $800, whatever that is for these high level institutions like University of Florida, University of Texas A&M. There's 13 master beekeeping programs throughout the United States, and we ask you to put your money up front. So we don't give out free money. You go and put it
Yep.
up. You pass, we reimburse you every time. So at the end of
Oh
the
wow.
course, you have gone at no cost. See, it's not free. It's at no cost to you because it costs
Yep.
somebody something,
Hmm.
right? So it's at no cost to you. Amazing donors, individual donors that we rely on, corporate donors that we rely on, and then the efforts that our staff puts in through corporate and enterprise type programs that we work with large companies. And those dollars all go back to these scholarships to then better serve those that need that throughout the United States.
Man, I love that setup and that concept because what a great way to get people to actually show up to. If you put something down, now you're more than likely to go finish it, especially if you
Skin
know
in the
you're going to
game.
get your money back once you finish it.
Absolutely.
And that's an
Absolutely.
even bigger thing. You get the knowledge and you get your money back. That's incredible.
And
Um,
our entire mission is a transition, right? Healthy transition from service. And one of those things that you can do is have a plan. And if you have a plan and you have a purpose and you're moving forward, well, if you have an educational path for say 5 years, or you have a plan for this year, it's really tough. Um, it's really tough to take your life tomorrow when you have a plan, and that's hugely important. You can't buy that, right?
yeah.
So having that plan and having that motivation moving forward is hugely instrumental. One of the other things that we talk about is knowledge transfer. So our beekeeping population is getting older. Who's going to learn from them, right? Some of their grandkids might learn from them as we're learning these things through all these associations. For example, there's beekeeping associations throughout the United
Yep.
States. But who's not learning? Their kids. So that means what we actually did was fill a gap of need inside of the 20 to 40-year-old range that can actually come in and start doing things within the beekeeping community. And that also has a huge impact on the conservation and sustainability of our planet.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
now we're doing multiple things all in the same ways, all from basic leadership tenets from the Marine Corps.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. The layers of assistance and help that you're giving out to veterans, to communities, to the planet. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And you said something earlier, and I absolutely, I really appreciate and respect what you said there. It's really tough to take your life when you have that plan and that mission going forward. And circling back to what you were talking about earlier, I think it made me think of, because I really appreciated what you shared with when you're focused on service of self, validating self when you first got out, like
Yep,
what are all the things I can get, where people will look at me and say, look at how good you are, is very, very different. And when you're serving others, also very difficult to want to take your life, because I got to show up for other people every day.
that's right.
Not to mention that the personal rewards, things you get back from that are huge.
They're
But
huge. They're
yeah,
actually. I didn't realize how, although we have served, we did not serve in this capacity, and it is different. The weapon is different, right? We were serving in defense of our nation, right? And now we are
um,
kind of doing the same thing, but it's different, and it's okay.
yeah. Oh, and it's, as you pointed out, it's a much safer weapon. I guess in some ways it might be like a little sim round though, because if you end up getting stung, I would imagine
Exactly.
that's. It's,
That's funny. That's good. That is good. You're like,
I
hey,
would,
I messed up there.
yep,
Yep,
got it.
totally messed up on that one. We've been stung a lot, and you kind of get the the learnings. It's a quick learning lesson. Oh, why did I just do that? Why did they come out in this way? Well, maybe I was loud. Maybe I was popping up moving things that I shouldn't have so quickly. And it's hard to describe with if you haven't been into a hive, but those that have, again, that adage of slow is smooth, smooth is fast really works. Um, I had a um, one of our sponsors, because we do this stuff with large corporates, and we also do employee engagement with these corporates. So their employees come out, we put them in bee suits, and we have wonderful experiences with them. They'll go through the hives with us. We teach them, we talk with them, not only about Hives for Heroes, but the beekeeping side as well, because a lot of people are interested. It's a really cool niche right now, and so we get them in bee suits. We have the conversations, we talk through that and everything. But it's awesome to see their expressions, right, and their learning lessons. So, for example, I had a person that we had already done all our buddy checks. We're going outside, but they wanted to scratch, right? They wanted to scratch something, so they undid their veil and didn't do the veil all the way back. So they had about like 10 to 12 bees inside of their veil, which is inside of their head. It's their face, because they're looking at the heat signature and all that kind of stuff that they're going towards your face. And so he's like, "What do I do?" I was like, "Calm down, breathe, and walk away. That's it. Calm down, breathe. Don't do anything else. Just calm down, breathe, and walk away." And so he came back and he's like, "I didn't get stung once." I was like, "Can you imagine if you would have like swatted one of those bees? I'm telling you right now, all of them probably would have got you."
Oh yeah.
So it's like that
Well,
lesson learned. You don't have to like overdo things. Sometimes it's okay in our life to just calm down, breathe, and walk away.
well, and man, I love the how it ties into bees, but as you pointed out too, in life in general. I mean, what a great exercise just to learn how to calm down, breathe, and walk away.
Yep,
I mean, I think that I think I could use that sometimes with my kids. I mean, we chatted
absolutely.
this
Yeah,
morning about just cooking breakfast for my kids. Like some days it's great, some days it's like, okay, Dad, take a breath and
yeah.
walk away. Just just walk away. Just walk
There's so
away for
many
a minute.
life
And
life adages and metaphors, and like you said, kids. I have three daughters. They're amazing. They're incredible. They're beautiful. I love them so much, and sometimes it's a lot,
oh yeah,
and that's okay.
that, yep, it is. And learning these lessons from bees, it's what an amazing thing to be able to do that. What sort of, and I have so many questions for you. You've got just so many good things happening. I love your this program. um, what sort of lessons or things have people learned from this? You said you got a bunch of examples. I mean, I'd love to hear just one story about somebody that took on a hive and had an awesome experience with it.
Yeah, one of my favorites is well, now I got too many favorites because we have one that literally works with us now on a corporate in a corporate setting, who started with us year one, did exactly what he should have done. We got a mentor with him. He lives about an hour from us here in the Houston area, and so he works with his mentor for a year. Then in his second year, he's growing. Like we say, learn, grow, lead. Those are your 3 years. Learn the first year, grow your second year, and lead your third year. So in his second year, he starts growing himself, growing his hives, and then other people want to start being attached in that area. So he also works with an organization called Veterans and Patriots United that serves those that have addiction or what do you call it? Like jail, being incarcerated. And so they're coming out and they need something. Well, guess what? Bees is a great way to help with that transition. So he's working with them. Before you know it, he's our corporate beekeeper on campuses like Hewlett Packard Enterprises, Technip FMC, like large corporates. And now he's serving those employees there. And that's a 3-year period of time that completely shifted his life in a really amazing way. Because now there's so much potential and opportunity throughout the rest. Although we are a large organization that some might think, we still have huge and tremendous growth opportunities that we're working through right now. And so as he's learning more and growing more, he's able to affect more. And guess what? It continues to grow. And the way we speak through that is how we speak with our corporates is learning how to grow an organization as hives are grown by bees. So when you think about what they are doing, you have basically a democracy that's going on, and it's all for the better good, right? At the end of the day. So everything's for the better good. If they need to kill the queen because she ain't laying, they kill her. Now, most people don't know that, but this is an amazing organism, right? Each hive is its own organism, and they live their own life, but they're doing it to produce and reproduce. That is their entire objective in life. So she's laying eggs, and that's all she does. She has bees that clean her and feed her, all sorts of stuff, right? And each one of them has job descriptions, just like we probably do in our own lives. And you create this hierarchy, right, over time. So day 1, you do something. Day 3, you do something. Day 15, you're doing something. And these bees are growing into these jobs, and eventually they have about a 40 to 45-day life cycle. So they're dying. And so they have to constantly be making eggs, or she has to be constantly laying eggs, and you're creating all these jobs for this organism to continue to be fulfilled, all in basically a 45-day window. It's incredible. And this is just cycling all the time. Well, when you do that, you're also growing those hives, right? Because they're producing and reproducing, which is why we get those byproducts, beeswax, honey, etc. And so as they're producing, they're also running out of space inside of the boxes or inside of a tree cavity or inside of a wall, and they'll split. Well, the only way they're going to be successful in that split is to follow the same guidelines, the same processes, the same system that had made them successful before. So now you can put this whole thing into a corporate setting of we all matter. We are all important. And our goals and missions are XYZ. Let's get there. And then when we get to a certain spot, well, now we might move to another city or another town or another whatever, but we have to follow the same process and procedures throughout. That's what made us successful. So now you take this nature organism that shifts into a literal organization of whatever structure that you're in.
So amazing. Like, what a beautiful, like taking that and then applying it over with the bees. I absolutely love that. That's incredible.
So
what y'all are doing is wonderful.
That's one that I can't be happy enough because I get to spend time with this guy almost every day. So you can probably see the smile on my face. It is a true joy.
Oh, yeah.
Quality of people that we have in the organization. And then one of my favorites, it's always going to be one of my favorites because it was one of the first ones, I guess you could say, that was really impactful to me. He's from Indiana. So Troy's the first one. Troy's, like I said, we're together pretty much every day. And if we're not together physically, we are talking. Like we're on the phone, we're texting, whatever's going on. It's pretty incredible. And then Ron is the second guy that I would talk about. And again, there's literally hundreds of personal stories that I can talk about. But these are standouts because of how much they've achieved in such a short period of time. And Ron, another addiction type person who wasn't doing that well, found Hives for Heroes, started with a mentor who was, I wouldn't say, like every mentor is different, right? Just like every person's different, every mentor is different. And he really pushed him. He's like, man, if you want to learn beekeeping, come on, right? And he would go do rescues and removals. And why that's important is because every mentor is different. There's not a singular path in life. There's not a singular mentor. You've got to learn things for yourself and take personal responsibility of that and then
Right.
grow from there. And so he started his first year not knowing a thing, started with Bill, and within, I think, the first week, he had his first hive, right? That is not Hives for Heroes way to do things. But again,
Right.
we're guidelines. We're not, a dictatorship. And so he gets his first, and then he goes for another removal and another removal. In his first year, he had 64 hives in 1 year. There's a lot of commitment, dollars, energy, learning all involved in that. 1 to 64 in his first year. And then he started seeing himself become better as a better person. His family wants to start being with him more. So now the kiddos are involved. The wife is involved. Amazing. And now they have a company called Archive Apiaries out of Indiana that they are at farmers markets. They are building their own brand out there. And he's also our Indiana state lead. And this is like literally less than 3 years of working with bees, working with the caliber of people that we have inside of the organization, because everybody can connect with everybody in the org. There's not really a hierarchy, as one might think. And he's just thriving. He's doing amazing. And those are the kinds of things you're like, okay, somebody that might have had issues and had nowhere to go or other places to go, but maybe not liked it. I mean, we don't want to take credit for anything that others have achieved. But now look at him. I mean,
oh yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
Well, I mean, you're providing the foothold. I heard Jocko mention it, and it's something that I've shared, and it was just something that he said. He's like, I didn't change you. Because somebody was giving him credit. He's like, I didn't change you. I might have been a foothold for you,
right,
to show you where you can climb, but you had to do the work.
That's
and I
that's
think,
accurate.
And I just love the way that he put that, very humbly stating that you still got to do the work.
We're
so
a platform and an opportunity for you to be successful, and we'll do whatever we can. But and I love those shifts of words. Right, there's a way that you help veterans. I don't like that word. Helping veterans, in my personal opinion, means you are taking the responsibility and you are walking them down a path that you don't even know if they want or not, because you're helping them. This is why we say we are supporting our nation's heroes. Support means it's you. It's your goals, and we're there to walk alongside you and be your backstop and be there for support. But it's on you. It's your responsibility.
I'm stealing that, by the way. That's I just love I love how you used the word taking the responsibility of it, because now I don't have to do anything. But the moment you walk away, they don't know what to do next.
That's right.
And that's where that problem is you have to constantly hold hands the whole time. And it's not that I'm against holding hands. It's the goal is to empower them to do this daily for themselves.
Another good word, empower.
Yeah. And I love your use of that. And circling back to what you said earlier too, because you're talking about the change 1 to 64 hives in a year. And you mentioned something in there that his family wanted to start hanging around with him again. And I had a conversation with another veteran, a phenomenal guy, author. Just he's got some amazing books. And Joshua Hood, he's an Army vet, great books. If you like thriller books, he's got some awesome books. But also a huge advocate for veterans. And he said that once he got control of his drinking, he had kind of got everything into a good plane. He went out and he's like, I had the best week ever with my family. And I sat back and I was talking to my wife, like, this was the best weekend ever. And he thought that they had changed. And she essentially broke down and said, no, we've been the same. You're the one that's changed. And it really hit him like a ton of bricks, that it was like, man, I needed to change. I didn't need, because when he was struggling, he thought everybody else needed to change.
Oh yeah, it's everybody else's fault.
It's everybody else. But it's, the moment he changed, and I just love he used the word responsible often, and his accountability, self-responsibility is just absolutely amazing. But that's what I heard with that too, is that the moment this individual started serving his hive, serving other people, that's when everybody else in his life started to want to be around him as well.
Yeah, what a great voice. I mean, and for like him, he's probably a phenomenal individual, right? I mean, he's a great person. Most people that are in the military are not there for selfish reasons, right? They are servants. They are doing something bigger than themselves. And oftentimes we tell people, we're not in the position to tell you when to lead, but we're giving you an opportunity to do so. You've always been a leader. Here's just the opportunity to do so. And as we're shifting and changing in our own lives, I think it's really powerful to appreciate what our minds and physiological nature can do when we shift. right? Because
Yeah.
his shift just shifted his whole family. Ron's shift shifted his whole family. And, what better way to serve? Like, we can serve a million people throughout whoever, but if your family isn't
Hmm.
intact and not doing well, kind of what's the point?
Yeah.
If you're not doing well in your own thing, the people that know you best, I guess there's one of those things about putting on a mask, right? You can go put on a mask everywhere else, but your family still knows,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's the fruits of who you are and where your heart is. And as you shift that heart, at least in my opinion, it shifted from a level of anger to everything. Like, I was just angry. I didn't like this, I didn't like that, and I didn't know how to emotionally regulate, so I would just get angry. And anything that was in my way, it was just pure anger, right? And now it's just a shift of like gratitude, or like being like choosing to be happy. There's this adage of happiness is circumstantial and joy is a choice. So you like choose joy, right? That's pretty amazing too, because you have it shares with you the power that you can actually choose joy in
Yeah.
every circumstance. Although you might not be happy in every circumstance, but you can still choose joy, and it's a shift of mentality.
Oh yeah, it is 100% a choice. Well, and I was listening to a mentor of mine the other day. He was talking about this concept that the moment we say it's a good day because of the weather's nice, or it's a good day, and that we're a victim to the world around us, that
That's
it's
right.
only a good day if everything around us is bad, or
Yep, circumstantial. Yeah,
but the moment,
absolutely.
yeah, but the moment we say I'm just gonna, it's a good day because I'm making it a good day, is a totally different viewpoint on life and on your day, and that's an empowering moment. And man, you said something that I just want to tie back to because I love connecting threads. And you said you didn't know how to emotionally regulate. And earlier on in this conversation, you mentioned how you have to emotionally regulate yourself while beekeeping, being able to control your emotions, because if you freak out, you're going to get stung. It's going to be a bad day. And so I love seeing that you didn't know how to emotionally regulate, and beekeeping definitely, I would, just based on your words, closed that and helped with
It
that.
really did, and it's one of those things where you can't. This is a control issue, right? A lot of us have, I as well, power and control. This is a thing, right? Because we are, in essence, not in power and not in control, right? So
Um,
these, to me, taught me that I'm not in control, and that's okay, right? But I can
yeah,
still work through things not being in control. I want to control this. I want to control this part of the environment. I want to control somebody's reaction to something that you do. Well, you can't. So when you're working with the hives, you can't control this stuff, but there is a process to follow, right? Like we were talking about, slow, smooth, smooth, fast, breathing, um, being like almost like being kind, like gentle hearted. It's like they feel it. There are people that have like this innate sense. Like we have a lot of mentors throughout the organization throughout the United States. We have guys and girls that are YouTube extraordinaires. We have educational, just amazing people throughout these universities. We have people that nobody's ever heard of that are just the most incredible beekeepers, and we get the opportunity to meet and work with these people. And the amount of learning that comes from that in a very short period of time is really being aware of what's going on. And all these things are lessons learned from a hive. I mean, I'm going to try to get anybody into a hive at least one time,
hmm
right? There's
yeah,
that piece of the transitioning as well, that we want adrenaline, right? We're either doing something crazy. Me, I was riding motorcycles at 120 to 140 miles an hour for no reason. Did not have any clue why I was doing that, but I was, right? And that's not safe. But
yep,
that same adrenaline action, that same feeling of unknown, that same, I guess I can only say adrenaline, is what happens right before you go into the hive, because you have no idea what's going
yeah.
on. Every hive is different, right? It's pretty incredible.
No, I've got some questions about that too, and I love that you tied in the adrenaline because I was just having a conversation with my wife about it. She let me know that in her belief that I'm an adrenaline junkie, and it's like, well, I definitely enjoy jumping into wild situations, and I didn't have a big defense for it, and it's true. I do enjoy jumping into different situations. I mean, it's something that I enjoy. And what I want to ask about too is jumping into this because it's piqued my interest since we first got in contact, since we had our first conversation. I've talked to my wife about it, and I would imagine that anybody listening right now that's piqued their interest. You know, I want to share out your contact info. I want to share all that stuff. And some of the questions that I've had with my wife that are unknowns that I would imagine somebody else listening might not know, that these might be the excuses to not call you, to not send you guys an email. And so just a couple of baseline things, like if somebody's interested, somebody wants to, for instance, I live in Colorado and my wife was like, well, I bet we can't have bees here. And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know what that is. So what does the climate look like? Is it climate dependent? Does it matter where you live in the US, or I guess anywhere y'all are worldwide, but does that matter or
It
factor into
does.
it?
It does not. I mean, it only depends on you. Like the biggest issues that we ever have are literally like HOAs. Like it's
Okay.
not. It's not the bees, right? The bees are everywhere. They are pollinating, right? So anywhere where there's going to be like flower and nectar sources, they're going to be there because that's how the circular part of nature works. We have again, we don't operate in groups like most people or organizations do. Think of like almost the most flat organization you can think of because we're a one-to-one network with a very minimal staff so that all our dollars are able to go back to the programming and mission and to the scholarships. So we rely on the mentors in local areas. So we are working with the State Beekeeping Association. We are working with the universities, and we are finding other apiaries in your area to connect you with. Right.
Okay.
So it's a network. It's not a program as most people would think. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. We don't want to share all our secrets, but
Yeah.
programs don't necessarily work because they put everybody into a funnel. Everything is like one fix, one solution for one thing. Well, we are not, one person. Me and you are very, very different. Nothing wrong with that. That's amazing.
No.
But we might learn differently. We might have different time schedules, right? You travel a lot, right? So how is that to where if I only have like if Hives for Heroes only has Denver, Colorado at 4 o'clock on Tuesdays, well then that can never show up because he's
Yep.
not there on Tuesdays. Well, that doesn't
Yep.
seem very fair, right? Because he's still trying to look for that. Not only the bees, but again, that personal relationship. We're a people organization that happens to play with bees. It's kind of cool, right?
That's
So now
really cool.
now you're connecting with those people, and now you take that. Y'all have each other's contact information. Here's the general guidelines, and y'all work on your relationship. Because who
Well,
wants to have somebody micromanage your relationship anyway, right?
no. Well, and it would have robbed, and I believe you said his name was Ron with
Mm-hmm.
1 to 64 hives.
Yep.
If there was a flat program in place, that would have not happened.
It would have
And
been
that would
happened,
have
yeah.
so exactly what you wanted to have happen wouldn't have happened because we were putting rules over the top of people.
That's right. So that's why they're
And so it would
guidelines.
have, yeah. So I think it's great, and you're reaping the benefits of it. And
We haven't
so,
found really a place either that you mentioned, like where could you not have bees, I think. Is it
mhm,
that kind of what you're saying?
yep.
We haven't really found a place outside of if it's not environmentally right for the bees, if that makes sense. So on
Okay.
HPE, it is on a second story terrace right next to an office space, and they're flourishing wonderfully. We have some really
Okay.
cool stuff going on with HPE. That's probably a whole nother conversation, but literally facial recognition and predictive analytics. I mean, it
Wow.
is way outside of what you would think of a nonprofit that is working with some heavy hitters in the industries. But what we like utilizing is the resources in which they have available to make the world a better place, literally.
Yep.
And since that is one of their missions, along with first responders and veterans, we were able to come together and work with a large, uh, I guess, collaboration team. It's about 7 different organizations all coming together to do this specific project, which like it didn't exist a year ago. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. But we haven't. So like for that instance, they're there at our headquarters. It's in the middle of Houston, right? Like pretty trafficked area. We have 6 hives in the backyard. Like it's right there. There's 3-story townhomes right next to us. They're doing fine.
Mm.
Actually, they produce extremely well. We also have farms and ranch that we have hundreds of hives on, right? So we haven't found necessarily a place that is just a no-go, right? A no-go for
Is
bees.
is it a because this was something that my wife brought up too, and again, just wanted to go through this in case anybody's. I think I'm 100% on board. I hope anybody listening just calls you up and gets started with it, because it sounds, all the little lessons inside of it sound incredible. So I want to make sure we clear any of the reasons not to. right now. But my wife was asking about also anybody that might be allergic to bees, like neighbors. She was like, should we be worried about neighbors? Should we be concerned about other people? Because if you think about a hive, somebody that doesn't know, is it 50,000 bees flying around my house at all times? Is it a swarm of bees at all times, or is it something that's not a big factor? How does that look?
That's a great question, and it could be a lot of people would ask that question, right? There is roughly 50,000 in each one of the deep boxes, so you could have 50,000
Okay.
there, and then you're building a honey super. I might be using some language that not everybody knows, but it's okay. You
I
get
was
on it real
totally
quick.
guessing at 50,000 too. I thought I was going to
Yeah,
go overshoot it, but
it's
that's a lot
actually
of
okay.
bees.
People
That's
will
a
say
lot of
like go
bees.
30 to 50,000, and we go with the 50,000 because
Okay.
we try to keep space as efficiently as possible for them to do their jobs and not add additional space, because as we see it, we as like me and a couple of the guys that are here that run the corporate hives, we don't want as many bees as you can put, right? You've seen things like stacked like crazy, right? In pictures,
Yep.
probably. We don't do that because of the amount of bees, and we put them on corporate campuses, so it's not very responsible. But
Yep.
if it's in your your farm or your ranch or anything like that, that's totally reasonable. We just don't do that. We end up splitting these bees from the corporates and then giving them to veterans and first responders in the area. So it's continued community service. Not only are the bees literally pollinating around that local area, anywhere between 3 to 5 miles, so that corporate is now doing community service without them even knowing it all the time. And then when those bees grow and split, we give those splits to the veterans and first responders that don't have bees yet. Right. So now
Got
they're
it.
doing an additional community services at corporate. But on the side of how many bees, yeah, roughly, and you call it 30 to 50,000 in a singular deep, and then you're going to go through the year. It fluctuates, right? So in the fall time now, we're going to start going and not diminishing, but they're going to start downsizing, right? Because they're going to protect their stores for what they've had this year, what they've done so well in creating. They're going to protect that. They're going to protect the queen so they can survive through the winter, utilize the resources they have, and then in the spring they're going to start growing again. So there's actual plans in place for different size boxes, how you utilize the boxes. People do it different ways. There's not a right way to do it, but that's why you have a mentor. But when it comes to people that could be stung, great statistic for everybody here. There's a 1 in 6 million chance that you will be stung by a bee. 1 in 6 million being stung by a honeybee. So basically, anything in life is more dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
Like literally.
And just seems like it. And I guess I love that statistic. And just it seems like putting it in such a close proximity
Mhm.
to everybody. But it seems like they're flying around for miles. Like they're not always.
That's
It's
right.
not a big swarm circling your house.
Yeah, and going back to what I said previously, which was bees want to produce and reproduce. They actually want nothing to do with you. Like you'll probably if there's a bee that's bumping you, she doesn't want to sting you, right? They
Okay.
inherently know that that's not going to be a good thing. So they're bumping you. They're kind of letting you know, hey, we're over here, right? That type of thing. But like for example, our neighbors, we haven't had a single complaint in 3 years, right? And of course, we give them honey because that's the nicest thing to do, and be like, hey, this is actually from basically your backyard, and we'll give them honey. And you always want to be nice to your neighbors because that's just good stewardship and being a good neighbor.
Right.
And if anything were to happen, of course, we respond very quickly. But we haven't had any complaints. I know a lot of people that have them in their backyards. Some people, funny enough, like hide them from their HOA. Right? It's like, who will know that I have one hive in my backyard unless you're leaning over my fence, right?
Yep.
Because, like you said, they're everywhere, so they're already there. Like
Yep.
they're already pollinating your plants. It's just that you have more of a concentration in your yard. I actually tend to think that that's better because then you
Right.
don't have wild like swarms and things like that around. Another thing to not fear is the swarms that you see in trees. They don't have anything to defend. So when you're watching those things, you can kind of just like see their beauty. They're not there to attack.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of lessons learned in this kind of stuff. But I would say, you know, the biggest obstacle that we have is the fear that we've had from childhood, because somebody at some point either told us they were dangerous or we got stung ourselves.
Okay.
Oftentimes it could probably be a wasp and you won't even know the difference, right? If you're a child and you get stung, wasps sting multiple times. The yellow jackets, they actually sting multiple
Yep.
times. The bees don't; they sting once, right? And the barbs get stuck in your skin, right? And then they fly off and they actually pull all their intestines out. That's the stuff that you see on there. And so
Right.
they sacrifice their life for the hive in the way that they see it. But one of the best treatments for those stings is actually honey itself, which is kind of cool.
Hmm.
So you literally like put honey on your sting.
Oh, I love that. That's incredible.
So I would say
Well,
mostly at ease, right? You have to be a responsible manager of hive, right? Hive manager, in order for the bees to not be aggressive. For example, if there is a low resources, well, they're going to go out and try to find resources. So some people feed bees with like a sugar water mixture. Some people do like a formula. Some people put bananas on there. I mean, there's this amazing amount of different types of things that people do, but they do need resources. So if you're low on
right.
resources, they'll probably be more aggressive, just like you and I would
And that makes a lot of sense. What about, and so when we think about cost, there's two costs, the financial cost and then the time cost. You had mentioned $100 to $800, but then you guys reimburse it. So let's say that I've gone through the course. What is the annual cost of having one hive? Like if I'm
be.
going to put a hive in my backyard.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm gonna do the answer of it depends, and it depends
Okay.
on what you want, and that's why it's so important not to go down one specific route, but to really engage in the community, see what other people are doing. The reason why I say that is because there are a lot of people that build their own hives. There are Langstroth hives that you probably see in normal TV. There are top bar hives. There are top Langstroth hives, long langs. There's a ton of different types, and some you can build. And if it's a monetary cost, you can find scrap wood and build them. So there's
Okay.
all sorts of different ways to do it. I would budget $1,500 to start. Period. Right.
Okay.
That's going to be whether we prefer people go with two hives to start. And the reason for that is because you can utilize resources on both of them. If one's weak and one's strong, you can help combine and utilize them in one way or another. You can see kind of like where the resources are coming from because you can actually see a beeline, right? They will come out, they'll do their figure eight in the morning, and you will see where they're going in the direction that they're going. It's really cool. But you could also have two hives sitting right next to each other, and the honey that's produced is completely different from each other, even though they're sitting right next to each other because their sources are different.
Okay.
And then, of course, we always safety gear. So you have your bee suit, whatever you're comfortable in. We're actually coming out with a new branded stuff, which will be on our website at hivesforheroes.com. That is a full suit, which has the veil and everything, and then a set of gloves. That's your basic PPE. I would wear boots. Up north, a lot of people do things different. They'll use maybe cotton or just a jacket. Down here, it's hot. We use triple ventilated suits. They are a little bit more pricey, but man, they are so good. That wind blows
Yeah.
right through them even when it's hot. So it feels really good.
Oh,
But you in Colorado might not want a full suit, maybe just a jacket and jeans, So
yep.
it's experiencing what it is for you. That right there is probably going to be 150 to $200, and I put that 1,500 with that included. So like
Yep.
budget
Yeah. So
1,500.
1,500 is going to basically get you, you could budget that and you're going to be in a good spot to get set up.
Yeah, you'll be two hives, startup gear, protective gear, feed. You'll be pretty good that first year, and then the initial cost decreases, right? And it depends on what you want to do. Do you want to build more bees? Do you want to sell nukes? Do you want to build queens? Do you want to produce honey? There's all these avenues inside of that as well. And typically, you'll find somebody that's around your area that goes, "Hey, I really like this. I want to make mead." For example, we had a mead made for us from Beeweaver, which was awesome. All the proceeds came back to the organization. So there's so many different opportunities
That's
in how you can grow
incredible.
this. Yeah, it was delicious. Oh my gosh! So it was a mead that is their basic mead that they did a barrel aged inside of a Balcones uh, uh, whiskey. That's
Okay.
unbelievable. And so they sold out very quickly. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. That's
And so we do a lot of collaborations like that, and it's quite fun. Whether it's and of course they're not all an alcohol, right? But mead is
yep.
supposedly the oldest alcohol because it's fermented honey, right? So
Yep.
kind of unique, kind of cool. And of course, we do that all over the place. There was a beer that we did in, it was called Heroes Honey Ale, and that was in Georgia. And I'm forgetting the name of the brewery right now. And our Georgia State lead, Eldon, is the one that connected that and utilized the honey to make beer. So all sorts of different opportunities to collaborate with Hives for Heroes for any of the listeners. Like, it's literally be as creative as you would like. As long as it's legal, moral, and ethical, be as creative as you'd like, and we'll probably get off.
Yeah, man, that's what an incredible, incredible thing. And then finally, the time investment. And I know you hit on, for me, I'm travel quite a bit.
It's really quite
and
cool to
so
also
my
see
time
that
at home is limited. And then when I am home, I'm usually I dedicate all my time to my kids and my wife. I want to get my wife some time away. I also want to spend as much time as I can with my kids.
Absolutely.
But what is a weekly time commitment that needs to be, that we need to be focused on taking care of your hive?
Yeah, so that first year you'll learn a lot. So it's really good to have that mentor specifically for that, because the responsibility is no longer on your shoulders. One of the important pieces of why we do what we do, and again, there are organizations that are out there that do things 180 degrees. It doesn't matter. As long as they're serving the veteran and first responder and serving our environment in a great way, we encourage everybody to get involved with whoever is in their local area. We do it differently because of our lessons learned. One of those is the responsibility of bees your first year. And a lot of military and first responders can probably understand this. Losing a life is not easy. And the first time that I had a swarm that I went and got and I brought into my backyard and I killed it because I had no idea what I was doing, I was a grown man crying in my backyard because I couldn't do even this, right? I killed something, right? I had to call my mentor, and this is where this mentor stuff came in. I called my mentor. He's like, Steve, you are doing literally the hardest thing you could possibly do, expecting some perfect result. Like, what in your brain was like going off to think that you could even do that? And I'm like, well, of course, our adage is we're always, we're very skilled at a lot of things. How can I not do this, et cetera, et cetera? That's a lot of the reason. But I would hate for people, not hate, but it sucks that is a piece of this, right? Bees do die. And that's something that you have to work through. So in that first year, we don't want you to burden that responsibility without the knowledge that you literally don't have the knowledge yet. So time commitment wise, depends on the hives. And it depends on what kind of beekeeper you are. This is kind of digging a little deep, but if you are a beekeeper that wants to know every single bee's name in the hive, it's going to take you longer, right? But if you're more on a commercial base kind of thing, it might take you 5 minutes. So Troy and I, as close as we are very different beekeepers, but we respect that about each other. And that's how our organization works, is we don't talk down based on what other people do, whether they use treatment or don't use treatment, or they use long langs and not langs, or, there's millions of different things that can happen. And it's very, very easy for people to not like somebody because of how they work their bees. Again, we're a people organization first. So we care about the people. And then as long as you're doing things that are not like, you're not burning a hive, right? Like that's so on the time commitment, for me, it would take less time than Troy. It would take less time than maybe somebody that wants to know, every single bee's name. There's nothing wrong with any of them. So it's kind of how you are. And then the amount of hives. So multiply that by the amount of hives. If you're spending 10 minutes on a hive, it might take you 20 minutes. So full on, it's going to take you 35 minutes with prep, getting ready, putting everything together, inspecting the hives, and then closing up the hives and kind of like deregulating. So that might take you 35 minutes. If you have 10 hives, it could take you 3 hours. So it really depends on how. And this is why the encouragement of being, again, that mentorship process is because you could go, man, I want 10 hives, but you have no understanding what 10 hives is going to cost monetarily, right? Because all those are going to need boxes. You don't know how much time it's going to take. So just kind of step in, put that toe in and work with us and the people that are in your local area. And then you'll figure out your own identity in beekeeping and probably thrive.
Yeah. So, and that's 30-ish, if you have 2 hives, 30-ish minutes a week.
Yeah, probably about 30 minutes a week. And some people do every 2 weeks because there's the science behind it is brood cycles, right? So you have the stages of the bee, right? Worker bee from the egg being laid all the way to being born. So if you're looking for different things like mites, for example, you might have a brood break if you need to do that because you don't want to do treatments. Or you can do, there's like small hive beetles. They're like pests. It's almost like playing a game, right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
real game, but it actually has like little villains, right? Like the veromite is a villain in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It acts as almost like a nerve tick. It attaches to them inside of the cell, and then they come out kind of deformed. And then you have small hive beetles, which take over cells one at a time, and they basically germinate faster. And so they take over the hive from like basically the inside out. So there's like villains involved in this too,
Wow.
including humans, right? Herbicides,
Okay.
pesticides, fungicides. So now you're becoming a person that is out in your community going, can you please not do X?
Yep.
Because this is what goes on. This is why you don't want to do, herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, and those types of things. And there's mostly natural things for all those, but it involves you in a lot of conversations. You really learn a lot in a short period of time based on your desire to learn.
Got it. Man, this is what an incredible journey. And those are just the ones that stood out to me. And I obviously think that anybody I think anybody should jump in and do it, especially if you're struggling though. If you're in a spot where you're a veteran, first responder, struggling, definitely reach out. I mean, what cost would you put on your mental health? Because I don't think there's that any barrier that's not worth stepping through, whether it's
I
the
agree.
financial, the time commitment. So step in and reach out. And with that, what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you if they're listening to this and they're saying, okay, I want to jump in, I want to learn more, I want to see about finding a mentor. What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, you go straight to our website, hivesforheroes.com, click on join us and click on newbie, and you'll fill out an application there. And we're collecting basic information, mostly geographical and some of your background. We don't go into a lot of background. We are extremely open organization. If you're a veteran or first responder and you have an interest in bees, you're in. Like, that's
Okay.
it. There are minimal qualifications. On the opposite side of that, if there's any listeners or listeners know anybody that would like to mentor a veteran or first responder, we act as though it's like the selective service. Sign up so that when you're needed, you're available.
Right.
So sign up at, again, hivesforheroes.com. You're going to click on the mentor tab and fill out a form as well. That goes into our database, and um, our national connections director, which is Charles McMaster. You'll see him on the website. He's a retired Army, just fantastic individual that is going to match you with somebody in your local areas. And then that second layer that you have is our state leaders. So if you're in a state that we have a state leader with, there'll be another additional contact point. So boom, you already have two. And then you're going to go on to our monthly national meetups, which you'll see everybody in the United States. If they want to get on that call, we're there for them. So we do that once. I think it's the second Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock Central. That's on the website. And then we have events all over the place. So if you look at our website, again, hivesforheroes.com, there is a ton of information. You'll see the About Us. You'll see our leadership. You'll see an events tab where it actually has events that are in your local areas. Those leaders do that. And you can show up. Click on it, show up. And then we have a resource tab that has all the state organizations that are there for you and to support you. You have our heroes. We call it the heroes, which is people like 22-0, our VA, Crisis Line, Wounded Warrior Project, all these known organizations that support. Because again, we're not experts in that, right? We're gonna get you to somebody that you need to be, or what you would like to be associated with. And then we have all our national stuff. So the National Honey Board, ABF, National Honey Producers, and all sorts of other organizations like that support the beekeeping community as a whole.
It's incredible. I love what you've done and what y'all are continually doing, and I really appreciate how you've redefined what success is in your life, and that's where you found happiness.
Oh, it's
Switching from
it's amazing.
success for self to success and helping others succeed, and that's essentially what you're offering up. I mean, in your goal, you're offering that for other people. So
That's correct. Yeah, we learn, grow, lead, and those leaders that are out there that are doing the same thing that we do every day. and they're doing it in their own communities. And we just took it from a very high level and then continue to go. We kind of top down, bottom up
Hmm.
approach, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of similarities in that in lean, as you know, but
Oh
also
yeah.
like a VBSS, for example.
That's man. That's so good. So good,
But
Steve. Man,
if there's any other ways that we can support you guys, I mean, and I'm talking to the listeners, of course, we also need support too, right? So just like a hive, the resources have to be able to come in. So if you're an individual or you're a company or anything like that, please go to our page. It's really easy to donate there on our donate tab. And then if you're a corporation or stuff that likes us coming out and speaking or doing things with your employees or even having bees on the campuses, we'd love to talk to you about that. This is all funded by everybody, right? This is exactly like a hive. It's not one
yep.
person doing anything. So any kind of generosity that you're willing to do, if you want to talk to us, call us, let us know. We're happy to answer any questions. Of course, we are a 501c3, so it is a tax donation, and we are, I mean, we've done so much with very little. We talk about how we started with 0 bees and $0, and now we're getting to serve in a really, really amazing way. So if we had more resources, what else could it look like?
Yeah. Well, and that's back to the donation and the helping out. It's not even one isolated helping veterans, because now we're getting more bees in, which now you're
Yep.
helping planet Earth. I mean, you're doing, there's so many layers of that every donation that somebody would make. So I definitely highly recommend anybody that's listening, if you're not reaching out to get a hive, what can you do to reach out to help to support, donate, recommend people to this. And Steve, thank you so much. I really appreciate you
Absolutely.
taking the time today, and I'm looking forward to staying in touch and seeing where you guys are at in the future.
Man, thanks, Nata. We appreciate it. And
Um,
also, if you can, follow us on Instagram or Facebook and LinkedIn at Hives for Heroes. That is a free way to just let people know that we exist, because you never know who's in your network that needs some support.
yeah, beautiful.
Thanks,
Thank you,
brother.
Steve. All right.